He's Tass. It's the Metzger Tassoul Show.
Take two. All right.
All right. Let's see if we are live. If anyone can see us here. We have one. This just popped up. If anyone's there, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. We have two.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right, guys. Yep. All right. We're live. Okay. Good. I think we're back. Perry's going to share this. Guys, we apologize. There was a little technical difficulty here. We had an issue with the trombophonic modulation device on Perry's new computer, and we had to have Brian replace it. It was a spark plug issue in the trombophonic modulator.
Oh my God.
So we apologize for that.
I'm going to type that in the chat GPT and see what I get for, what is it?
All right. Anyway.
Welcome, everybody.
Mr. Alvarez, how are you? You made it. We made it. You made it. We barely made it. We've been trying to fix this thing for 15 minutes here, but we are here. So anyway, fun topic today. We thought we would take a little break. All you martial artists, it's always business, business, business. But today, we wanted to see what kind of arguments we could stir up with if you can only train in one martial arts style, what style would that be and why? Does anybody want to put in the chat box? But Tass.
Yes.
Now people are leaving.
You want to know about my Kung Fu envy?
Well, careful. You're being politically dangerous right now.
No, there's got to be an art for everybody.
Okay. Well, then go ahead.
I think, for me, I mean, that was kind of threw it at me, like, what would be my favorite art if I could only choose one? But I think it depends. Yeah, and it depends on if you're asking me that as a 50-year-old man, or if you're asking that question as a child, because it's changed over the years, right? Because physical ability and injuries, I guess, if you will. So, and even I think during train, some of those things change, right?
So what you're saying is Tai Chi?
Right now it's more, until I get my left hip replaced here this fall, it'll be, it's more upper body stuff, right? So it's more like the Filipino martial arts, things like that, right? As you know, I'd love to do jiu-jitsu, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but my claustrophobia kills me. And then the answer would be, well, just don't get in on the bottom. And I won't bring up business, right? Because we could use a business lesson with that as well. But my point is that that probably for me at this stage of my life wouldn't, like, the BJJ would be great, but because I love it. But it's just the claustrophobic thing that's just so hard for me to get over that. And the kicking thing has been very difficult with, the knee thing, the one replaced hip, another one coming on the way. But if I went back to my youth, I don't think I would change anything. I love training Taekwondo. Loved it. Absolutely loved every bit of it. And would do it all over again if I had to start over.
It's a great answer. And Mr. Alvarez, is MMA considered a style? Some would say yes, it is, and some would say no, it's a mix of many styles, mixed martial arts. So for the point
thank you for going through the acronym for us.
Well, it's how you say it, right? So you got to really think about it. It's a mix of martial arts, right? But in today's world, it can be considered its own style. But for the sake of discussion, I would not consider that a single style. So, I'm just wondering, like, here's the thing to think about, everybody. If you can only train, and Tass, you articulated this well, like you said, well, as a child, as an adult, with injuries, right? So if somebody came to you right now and said, look, you're just going to be very proficient in one style, and tomorrow you won't remember anything else except this particular style, what style would it be? Now, when I ask that question, are people thinking just in terms of a self-defense, what they feel is the best art for self-defense? Are you thinking, what's the best art to grow my business? What's like, look, it's not knocking anything. Taekwondo is easier to build than a Tai Chi school, right? Just because of the market share, right? And the publicity karate or Taekwondo got. So if it was just strictly in terms of business, what style would you choose? If it's in terms of self-defense, what style would you choose? If it's in terms of your capability, Taekwondo might be a harder style if you're 50 or 60. I mean, then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every week, multiple times a week. And it's like I've heard even Ricardo Laborio, who's a coral belt, say it's like it's an old man's game. It's an old man's chess, right? It's like chess. It's you can control the pace and know, like I have a bad knee. Taekwondo's given me a bad knee. I have a bad shoulder, but on the ground, I know what I can do and I can't do, and I can modify it in a way as opposed to standing up and moving around and flicking out a jab or throwing kicks. So it's just an interesting question. But guys, we need some, we'd love to hear your answers. What style?
It's interesting too, Metz, as you say that, and there's two things I want to talk about. But one, you think about it, for me, the whatever in Taekwondo, right? Sparring, board breaking, forms. I did forms because I had to, because my instructor said you had to be well rounded, right? But sparring was really the game that I love to play. But that was a game of, you had to strike and it had to be with trembling shock. Like that was the deal, right? It wasn't point style. It was full contact, Taekwondo. And so that's a lot of strain on and everything is dynamic and powerful, right? And I remember because I started doing BJJ, gosh, probably 20 years ago, right? Dabbled in it here and there. And I remember trying to take, and I'm sure you deal with this all the time with new people that are coming in, right? They're trying to take their physical strength and their grit, and they're trying to just utilize that in jiu-jitsu. And though there can be benefits of that, right, as you're trained, right? But the reality is Brazilian jiu-jitsu is more, I think the less hard you go, the more you flow, right? The easier that style, because now you're just moving with it. It's not like it's different than a striking art, as an example, right? Because it's just a different feel to it. There's that flow to it, right? So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is this, as people are not chiming in.
Yeah, please give them a chance.
The other thing I would say would be this. It's interesting when we ask this question, and if people go back and you're listening to this or you're watching this, and you really start to think about it. Well, think about, I know this wasn't supposed to be a business, whatever this is, podcast or Zoom or whatever.
That's exactly right.
But here's what I would tell you. How many times do you have somebody that calls there's two different things here. How many times do you have someone that calls your martial arts school and they're looking for XYZ martial arts? Now, one school of thought is, well, we're going to try and, get them to accommodate and we'll show them the way and we'll accomplish their goals. Right. And by the way, you can do that if you don't have someone who's very astute and they really don't understand or know what they necessarily want, because they just want to get in shape. So I would argue that most martial arts could get somebody in shape, right? Just depends on how they do things, right? Now, if you're going to go into a Taekwondo class and you're going to work on forms all day and you're doing it just very low impact and just slow motion, then no. But a good Taekwondo class can give somebody a great workout. A BJJ class is going to give someone a phenomenal workout, right? So there's all of those things. But if you had someone that was astute, that really knew what style that they wanted to train in, and you're trying to get them to go from kickboxing, as an example, I'm just using as an example, to come in and do your BJJ program, which is strictly BJJ, no MMA, Well, it's a bait and switch. You're just trying to get them to come in because you maybe don't know the benefits as to what they're looking for, or maybe you're trying to shove a square peg in a round hole. So, as much as we talk business, and it's important to understand, hey, the consumer may not really understand what it is they're looking for. It's our job to help educate and help decide. There are people that you should not enroll in your school. I'm just going to call that out, right? Because it would be a bait and switch. And so, not that you shouldn't listen to your people, right? But you need to listen to what it is that they're really looking for. Are they looking for a key benefit, or why are they looking for a particular style? Because those are two I would say, very different things, right? Is I want this benefit of whatever, fitness as an example, but I really want to do some striking. Well, you're not going to do any in most BJJ schools. You're not doing any striking unless you're in an MMA school. So I think it's just important to articulate the difference in that, like, because I think as a business, sometimes we do that, right? I'll go back to the student I enrolled 25 years ago. His parents asked if we teach Aikido. I said, well, that's an interesting question. Now, this is what I said. I didn't say yes, right? I said, that's an interesting question. Why do you ask? Well, I heard Aikido is great for self-defense. Well, what is it that you want your child to learn? Well, we really want him to learn self-defense. Well, okay, we can accomplish that. Like, we could do that. And this particular student enrolled into our school, and he ended up getting a secondary black belt with us, years and years later, because we could articulate the difference. But I've also had people that call and say, hey, I really want to do MMA. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean when you say you want to do MMA? What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Yeah, let me refer you to a different, school, because that's just not what we do, right? So I think important things to think about. And I think it's also important for you to understand the ages of the students in your school, and that your students, if we can keep our students long-term, we all know there's attrition, but they go through phases in their training as well, right? And so if you keep someone for 10 years, what they did when they first started and maybe what they want to do today, those things may be a little bit different, and they may feel like they're outgrowing some of those things, or they can't do some of those things. And so it's always important to make sure that you're listening to your students and to your clientele as well.
And evolving.
Yeah.
Which goes to the question again, is MMA considered a style?
Right.
I think today some of the martial arts community consider it a style, right? There's MMA gyms, there are MMA schools, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway,
right.
Well, the thing is again, when you answer this question, you can answer it for yourselves, obviously, because this question was meant to be kept private. Keep it to yourself. Don't share. This is just something for you all to think about and reflect on. But what style would you train in for business, for self-defense, for getting in shape, for just the love of the art, and for what's best for your capability, right? I mean, so that's kind of the question here. And, we'd love for you guys to weigh in, but at the end of the day, being that we are business consultants, there are certain styles that are just better for business today. And, the hot keyword right now in our area, I won't speak for every area, but in our areas, is BJJ. I mean, because on the Google search and the AdWords and stuff, according to the team here, like that is searched for quite a bit. Because the one thing that MMA or BJJ has today over any other martial art really is commercials multiple times a month in the form of the UFC, and it's just in our faces all the time, right? As opposed to back in the day, karate, taekwondo, you had Chuck Norris movies coming out all the time, Van Damme, Bruce Lee, like you heard. So it was this stand-up mentality. I want to learn how to kick and punch, regardless of karate, taekwondo, jeet kune do, whatever it was. But we need to get it. We need to just bring martial arts to the forefront, which we'll be having a big announcement for this industry coming up. We're going to be announcing it at MayaCon, actually, in conjunction with Century Martial Arts, to see, to come together on how we can do something as an industry. And I'm excited about that. And I can't go into any more detail other than that, but we just don't have those movies anymore, right? We don't have that stuff. And I think part of it is because maybe the dings, is that what you were talking about, Perry? Okay. I think it's just because today the audience, it's not a big mystery now when you hold a black belt in karate or kung fu or taekwondo. To the non-martial artist, they don't look at us or look at that as tough anymore as they used to back in the 80s when all the karate guys on film were beating everyone up. Now you have the UFC and people get in a cage. And then, look, I know some of you are going to come and say, well, that's still a sport. You know, the stuff that I do would kill you and I can't use it in the UFC. Yeah, I understand. But the audience out there just believes the most dominant art or thing to do is MMA. The other thing that I want you to educate all your people on is you know, martial arts was really designed to defend yourself against the non-martial artist, against your average attacker or your average person on the street. When you start comparing like styles, if you're a true martial artist, you're not out there mugging people. You know, you're not out there looking for a fight. You know, so it was never about style versus style. And I see these people on here too trying to prove themselves, saying, you know, there should still be dojo wars, or there should be this or that. For what? Like for what? I'm hoping you guys are savvy enough to understand that it's really not the art, it's the person, right? I mean, you could have a high level collegiate wrestler that never did a martial art in his life that could probably beat 90% of martial artists out there that have never been in a fight or anything else, right? Because they're just younger, stronger, better shape, grinding, you know, mentally tough. You could be the most skillful person in the world, but really not be that mentally tough, right? So it's not about style versus style and art versus art. At the end of the day, you got to know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And yes, Cobra Kai has helped karate bounce back a little. 100% it has. Yeah. And by the way, we saw a huge, noticeable uptick in our teen market because of Cobra Kai. I don't know if I ever actually asked you that, Tass. Have you noticed in the last couple of years with Cobra Kai a big uptick in the teen market?
That's interesting, right? And I'll say I'm gonna give you the transparency and say yes, we have, and that equates to probably 4 or 5 teens because we've never gotten teens before. We've kept them, right? We've kept them. They start at 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. We keep them till teens, but very, very few times have we enrolled people as teens. I mean, it just, for us, that's just not really happened, but it has happened. So now that you mention it, I look back and I go, yeah, you know what? We've definitely enrolled more teens. I just, you know, look at our teen and adult classes for sure.
Yeah, it was very noticeable with us. I mean, a tremendous amount of teens joined.
And by the way, I do remember, to your point, I do remember talking with Century, and they saw a huge uptick in like the size 3 and 4 uniforms when Cobra Kai came out. I remember having that conversation. So
really?
Yeah, so that was not just you; it was everywhere. Yeah.
So as an industry, what does that tell us, right? There's still a need for our industry to have some of these movies, the Cobra Kai movies, and I know that Karate Kid's coming back out with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan, I guess, if that's a real thing. I think that's a real thing where they're coming together, you know, because Jackie Chan did the Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, and I think they're all back for this, but now Ralph Macchio's character Daniel is coming into that world too. So, I mean, look, any of that stuff can help, but what we're doing right now, just in case nobody knows, is just filler because nobody wants to participate as far as if you could only train in one style, what style would it be and why?
We'll be filibusters. We'll just keep talking.
Yeah, that's all right. We know how to do that.
You know, the other thing I would say is from go back to the business perspective, right? Like, you know, there's hard style arts and soft style, not hard to learn, right? But hard style and soft style. So Filipino martial arts would be more, and again, people argue with me on this, right? It's more of a soft style art, right? They're doing like the parries and things like that. Whereas in Taekwondo, it might be just a strong block, right? And I think at least my take on it from a teaching perspective, what I love, and by the way, if you're a soft style school, right, you can still do this, right? But it's really breaking things down. If you want to be in the kids market, being able to have a 1 and a 2, like a beginning and end position. Well, try teaching Tai Chi to an 8, 9, 10-year-old, where it's just there's no really start position, there's no real end position. It's soft, it's flowy, it's all the things. That's difficult to do. It's very, very difficult to do that. And so from a structure standpoint, at least the way we do it, I think a lot of people do this, but Taekwondo, karate style, right? The structure of the class, which anybody, by the way, any art can have the structure of the class, can have the discipline of the class. But I just think it's different. I think there's something to be said about, hey, if you want to have if someone comes to you, they want their child to learn respect or discipline or confidence, right? In my mind, the way that we do Taekwondo, right, is definitely, I feel like, and by the way, not that anybody else can't do it, because I believe you can, but I just feel it's one of the best systems, Taekwondo, karate, those stand-up arts, to be able to teach the discipline, the structure, understanding body mechanics first, and then moving in transition. Because the real answer to the question is, and that's why you said if you can only pick one, I remember a time when I was in late teens, early 20s, where my answer to everything was this jump back kick. That was my answer to everything, right? And then I came to a realization, like, that's just not a good solution, right? So I would think a BJJ person would want to be cross-trained in a striking style, because the fights don't start together or on the ground, right? They can potentially go there, right? Most people will say that most fights end up on the ground, and that would be false. That's a police statistic, right? Because of cuffing and things like that. Can they go to the ground? 100% they can go to the ground. So is it important to have ground skills and do BJJ? Of course it is. But if I'm doing BJJ and I'm in a bar scene, I'm not going to drop down to guard and start, trying to armbar a guy in a bar while his buddies are kicking me, right? I need to be able to do striking. Just like if I'm a striker and someone closes the gap on me and they get in, grappling range, I better know how to do grappling. So it's hard to pick just one, which is, of course, what we hoped we would have conversation about, but it's not happening.
So basically, I just want everybody to start tagging your friends right now. We're going to get some viewers here. So basically, Tassoul's saying BJJ is inferior and does not work on the street compared to Taekwondo or karate. Karate and Taekwondo is superior to BJJ.
That's right.
And
Taekwondo specifically, Mudaquan Taekwondo specifically is superior to all other styles of martial arts.
So hey, guys, if you're watching, let's start tagging your buddies. Those are fighting words right there.
Yeah. Not Odaquan, not Mudaquan Taekwondo is the best style of martial arts. Did I ever tell you the story when I was, actually, this is a true story, when I was probably 13 years old, I was trained. I got my black belt when I was, 12. People will say, "Oh, you got a 12-year-old black belt." Yeah, I did.
And you started at martial arts at 11.
11 and 3/4 I was when I started, and then I got my black belt at 12.
And Mudaquan.
Which is why I believe Taekwondo is the best. I mean, because you can get there the fastest.
Right.
But this part, that was a joke, everybody. This part is true, right? So I started at 9, just to pre-frame, got my black belt when I was 12 something. 13 years old, I'm on the floor and I'm taking class. I'm in ready position. Instructor asks the question. He's like, "What's the best style of martial arts?" "Taekwondo, sir." Right? And he's like, 50 push-ups. I'm like, what the hell did I do wrong? Like, here I'm thinking I'm giving the right answer. Well, this is right around the time that The Martial Way, I believe it was, that book came out, and he had read that book. And the line in there, right, is there's no superior martial art. There's only superior martial artists, right? And that was when he educated me on the fact, like, no, Taekwondo's not the best style. I'm like, oh, okay. And then that all made sense to me, right? But I was being the good student, doing the callback, and
was that the day you
thin carpet floor with my knuckles and did 50 knuckle push-ups? Yeah.
Was that the day you realized you would never be the best?
No.
What day was that?
Never happened.
When you can crawl? The day you started crawling.
That's right. No, just there's this feeling that just comes over when you're the best. I mean, you don't have, that's it,
So guys, BJJ, no good. Taekwondo, karate, no good unless it's Mudaquan.
Uh-oh, Benwali's calling me. He's calling me to tell me that I'm right.
Yep, people are chiming in. But anyway, Tassoul, not only are those arts inferior, but he's also the best. And if you want to test that out, please join us at MayaCon in July. Tass will be there. Tass,
Yes.
wear your dobok.
I'm not. Yeah, I may, but I may have my dobok on with my kung fu shoes, slippers.
Hey,
They call them shoes or slippers.
what style are you talking about?
There's kung fu and kung fu. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if someone should educate me on that. I don't know if there's a difference between gung fu and kung fu, like one with a G and one with a, or is it like jujitsu? It's just spelled differently.
I always thought it was an accent issue.
Gung fu. Could be.
Yeah. Now we're going to be reported.
Could be.
Hey, I do want to say this to you, martial artists out there. Does anyone else want to stand up to these idiot nerd bullies that are out there? Maybe the fact that I just called them idiot nerds, maybe I'm the one being the bully. But when people post and they're happy or proud of something, and then you have these idiots that just want to knock them down, I don't go out and bully people. But ever since here's a true story. The reason I got into martial arts,
because he was a nerd.
I didn't care if there was 10 of them, how big they were. I did not like bullies ever. And I remember being punched in the stomach and thrown into a stall in elementary school. I remember in daycare being punched right in the face I was in daycare. I was probably third grade. There were two high school kids fighting. And then the bullying started and I started lipping off. I got punched. I'm like, Mom, I need karate. So I started like at 8 years old in karate, or 7 or 8 years old. But I see this kind of crap on Facebook and stuff. And I think to myself, where is everybody? Like, when are we going to grow up here as an industry and kind of not be mean to these people, but let them know how much of an idiot they look like? When they start bashing somebody else, that might be proud of their style or their technique that they're doing or whatever it is. I mean, hey, industry, stand up for what you teach, right? And for the people who make comments like that, let me tell you what I do when I see comments. The first thing I do is I click on the name and I go look at the profile of the person. And there's a consistency with those people. They're either dressed as a superhero or some shit, or they're, wearing battle gear, or they're, there's a consistency there. And I will also say that when we see that, if it's in one of the Maya groups specifically, we just kick them out for life for good, because it's ridiculous. But if you see that stuff, you should comment and just ask, what's your point here? What's your point in doing that? So I say that because it's fresh on my mind, because I saw some things this morning and I made some comments myself to let people know that, they're looking for the other nerds to give them a thumbs up or a laughing emoji or something like that to get attention for themselves, to feel good that they just bashed somebody else or made someone else feel bad. I just don't get it. But I would like the industry to step up a little bit and comment on that kind of crap that goes on, because that's what this industry is about, right? So
yeah, it is, and it's. Let me just put that in a different light, right? You see nothing. I mean, if our goal is really to, like, on a serious note, impact our communities, right? Then we're doing a bad job of that, potentially. And why do I say that? Because when you see these things and these altercations that happen online, some of these could be staged potentially, right? But I believe some of those are real, and everyone's got their phone out and they're videoing it, and no one's stepping in to help. Like, but we got 30 people with their phones on them videoing things. It just seems ridiculous to me, right? Like, literally, I was driving by the other day, and it was what appeared to be 60s, someone in maybe mid 60s, lady that was walking fast, and a guy was walking behind her. And as I looked close, they appeared to be working for the same company, but they were maybe outside leaving work, whatever it was. He was yelling at her. She was kind of looking back and saying things back. And I'm like, man, it just doesn't look right, right? Something feels a little bit off. And so I drove by and just left him. No, I drove by, and then I turned around and I went back, and I pulled up and I put the window down, and I just asked the lady, I said, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, Okay. I just want to make sure that, hey, was everything good? I don't know who these people are. I'll never see them again. Right. But I think that's our job as martial artists is, like one of our oaths, right, was to create a more peaceful world. Like that was one of the things that we wanted to accomplish. Right. So I get it. There's things that Metz and I will joke about. There's things we talk about, but at the end of the day, I mean, if our goal really is to impact the community, make a difference, be a leader, then lead by example. And there is power in numbers, right? Whether if it's a bully to one or a bully, all of a sudden one become many, that bully's going to back off. Whether that's an adult, whether that's a child, they're going to back off real quick, and they're going to learn that they're out of line and that there's a majority behind them. This is where all these groups. This is why you have quote unquote protests and all the things, right? Because there's power in numbers. And so if we want to flip the switch, start taking the other side of things to shut out this kind of energy. And I think that goes a long way. But yeah, you see it all over, which ironically, it's interesting, right? We know the drill, right? Century just has a lot of people on the Century Facebook page, right? Because they're a big company, and so they attract all kinds of people that are in there, right? And for a long time, I kept looking at the comments that are in Century. But if you don't think people are chasing and following you on your phone, guess what? I don't see anymore. I don't see any of those Century posts. And the reason why is because I don't participate in any of those posts anymore. I don't go search it. I don't go look for it. Now that I said it, it will probably show up on my phone. But because I'm not doing that, it's not serving it up in the algorithm. Well, if you choose to not engage in the bully activity, right, then maybe less of that will happen. And by the way, if you do choose to be on the other side of that and stand up for people, maybe we can make a difference that way as well.
I wish there were more viewers here, but obviously people were afraid to stick up for their style. So this wasn't a very highly attended,
right.
Whatever this is, Zoom podcast, webinar, Facebook thing that we do.
Well, I've been doing it 8 years. We should probably know what it's called.
But my point is I'd love some. You know what? I think I might make this a topic. You know what? The next title of a show or coming up potentially, we'll take a screenshot with the person's name and everything, whatever their comment is. That'll be the title of the show, and I'll say let's discuss it. And I'd love to hear the logic behind it.
We could make it a workshop. We could all go over to that Facebook page and then comment. That would be fun. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun. The thing is I just don't understand. If you see something you don't like on Facebook, why don't you just keep scrolling? What makes you stop, take time out of your day to make it clear to bash somebody else? I just don't understand that. But when somebody is bashing somebody else, I would like you to take time out of your day to let that person know how much of an idiot they look like. Because behind the scenes, we joke about those people. We have pictures of those people. We print them out sometimes, hanging up in the office. I know, Stephanie, you took a couple of those pictures home. Anyway, well.
Oh, man. She's got, Stephanie, she might look sweet, but she's got her kill list. She's got it all numbered out.
Stephanie Connor right here from Maya just got her brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu last weekend. She still trains too. Oh, I was going to say earlier, somebody commented, and this is where I say, like, don't be an idiot. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, somebody commented, it was our webinar that we're going to do, the free webinar. It had a picture of me and you and Chris and Arsamont, right? And said, never heard of any of these people. Don't get scammed. No, none of these people own a martial arts school. Oh. And I'm like, damn, I had to pull out the articles of incorporation just to make sure that I still own some schools. I was confused, but we responded and said, well, there are 13 schools between the four of us, and all very accomplished martial artists, in our own right. And, we'd love to see you on the webinar and can't wait to have you on, but it's like, where are you? Yeah, it's tough to scam people out of $0. Exactly. Like the webinar's free, but it's like,
Well,
I don't understand how people think.
There's that piece of it. And by the way, there are some very, very successful school owners, right, that Metz and I don't even know, right? And that are just doing their own thing, and that most of you probably don't even know because they're just to themselves and they're doing their own thing, right? And so to say like never have even seen these guys, don't know who they are. Well, you say this all the time in business. What's going to get you to your next level in business isn't the things that you already know, it's what you don't know. So maybe you want to go talk to some people that you don't know and see if they know more than you. And then if they do, go implement some of those things, right? Or take away the gold nugget. But yeah, it's just.
Or just sit at home and go, these guys,
Right.
none of these people even own a school. When you really, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like,
right.
Anyway, well.
So we have their picture up now in the office?
We have it right here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
So anyway, well, Tass, I appreciate it. This has been a boring show.
Yeah, I know.
But it's always a pleasure to catch up.
It is. It is. You have plans for the weekend? Staying home, on the lawn? What are you doing?
Well, we're going on our first cruise tomorrow.
Is that right?
Yep.
First cruise.
We're excited.
4 days. That's good.
Yep. Very excited about it. But it's interesting. One of the excursions we're going to a place where there's a lot of buffalo, bison and stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So
that's
we're
awesome
about that. I don't know if the girls are going to go to that. I'm going to go.
Yeah. Big field. They got eagles flying over.
I hear it's majestic.
Well, I wish you all the luck with, I hope you see a lot of buffalo all lined up in a row.
Thank you, Tass. Thank you. Anyway, well, hey, we appreciate you guys, all 12 of you. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And hey, we got to come up with a more controversial topic to lure some of the industry in here.
Right? Apparently. My style is better than your style. Maybe that's what we should do next time we run that one.
Maybe I should just do the show myself.
That's fine. I mean, you do anyways. So I don't know what would be any different about that. I mean, it's all good.
Thank you, Tass.
Oh man. Good stuff.
Well, thank you guys.
Maybe one time we'll just come on here and we'll literally just have a conversation like we're on the phone and everyone can just feel like they're on the behind the scenes, tapping into a phone call that
we can do that if you want to be blackballed from the industry.
Yeah, well, that's true. Maybe we won't do that. We'll have to edit it first and then beep out some stuff and some names. Just teasing.
And styles.
Yeah. So if anyone's looking for the best, I mean, just look me up, and I do private lessons on Zoom, and you can order your black belt. Happy to help however you guys need and want.
There it is. Thank you guys.
All right, everybody.
Hey, have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to everyone.